Welcome to the deep dive. This is where we take a whole stack of sources, could be articles, research, online discussions, you name it, and we really dig in, pull out the absolute core insights for you.
Yeah, think of it as getting you completely up to speed, but, without you having to do all the legwork.
Exactly. We try to make it interesting, maybe find some surprising details, keep you hooked. And today we are diving deep, really deep, into a classic, Daphne du Maurier's Rebecca.
Oh, it's a fantastic choice, a truly rich book.
We've got loads here, online chats, plot breakdowns, historical background, stuff that I think will genuinely make you see this novel in a totally new light.
It's a great one for this because it's so often put in the wrong box. People think Rebecca, oh, romantic suspense, maybe a bit spooky.
Right, the classic perception.
But du Maurier herself, she was very clear. She said it wasn't meant as a romance. She called it a study in jealousy. And that changes everything, doesn't it?
Okay, yeah, let's really unpack that because it starts feeling like one thing, this shy young woman swept away by this handsome older widower.
Maxim de Winter. Very dashing, very mysterious.
But then it twists into something much darker, much more unsettling. It makes you question who the hero is, who the villain is, even what love looks like in this story. So even if you think you know Rebecca, maybe you've seen the Hitchcock film or another adaptation, stick with us. We're going beneath the surface today.
There are definitely layers most people miss.
Okay, so our deep dive kicks off in Monte Carlo. Sun, glamour. But our narrator isn't really part of that. She's young, quite insecure.
Painfully so, really.
And she's working, right, as a paid companion for this awful American woman, Mrs. Van Hopper.
Oh, she's dreadful. Loud, demanding. The narrator's life is pretty constrained.
And it's there she meets Maxim de Winter. Wealthy, older, he's 42, she's in her early 20s.
Big age gap.
Yeah.
And he's a widower. His first wife, Rebecca, the Rebecca died just a year before in this sailing accident. Or so everyone believes.
He seems haunted by it all, and after this very quick, almost rushed courtship.
Whirlwind is the word. Almost impulsive on his part, you feel.
He proposes, and she accepts. Just like that, she becomes the second Mrs. de Winter.
And what's fascinating, right from page 1, practically, is that power dynamic. It's set immediately.
How so?
Well, she's timid, naive, barely an adult, really. He's older, worldly, wealthy, carries this weight of tragedy. There's an imbalance from the get-go.
Yeah, I see that.
And, connecting this to the bigger picture, lots of readers think, okay, romance starting, like Cinderella.
Right, the fairy tale setup.
But the foundations feel off.
Yeah.
Uneasy. It's not quite right. And then there's the huge fact, that we never learned her name.
Okay, let's talk about that. It's not just a random detail, is it?
Absolutely not. Sources say du Maurier struggled to name her initially, but it became this deliberate, powerful symbol.
Of what? Her lack of identity.
Exactly. Her lack of self-worth. How she just gets absorbed into his world, his name, his house. She signs letters, Mrs. M. de Winter. His initial, not hers.
Wow. And there's that bit on the phone, isn't there, where she forgets Mrs. de Winter is her now.
Yes. It's such a telling moment. Like, she doesn't exist as an individual, just as Maxim's wife.
It's quite chilling when you think about it, like she almost erases herself.
Some online discussions really pick up on this. One person said she removes her own name, showing she's so absorbed into Maxim's world. Another called her the brainwashed next wife.
Brainwashed. Strong word, but you can see why someone might think that. Her whole perspective seems defined by him.
Which raises that big question, for the listener. How do you build an identity when you're constantly living in someone else's shadow?
Especially this shadow, Rebecca's shadow.
Precisely. When they arrive at Manderley, Maxim's huge estate in Cornwall, Rebecca's presence is everywhere. Not like a ghost rattling chains or anything.
No, it's more psychological.
Exactly. A weight, an atmosphere. It's in the house, the staff, everything. Manderley itself is almost alive.
Du Maurier describes it so vividly, doesn't she? The gardens, the sea.
Oh, incredibly. The rhododendrons, beautiful, but somehow oppressive, that slaughterous red, the cold sea, even things like Rebecca's handwriting, the smell of azaleas. They're loaded with this feeling.
It's like the house remembers her. Manderley is Rebecca, in a way.
It's where she truly lives on, as you say.
And then, stirring this pot, you have Mrs. Danvers, the housekeeper.
Oh, Mrs. Danvers. She's more than just a housekeeper, isn't she? She's terrifying.
Definitely. Sources describe her appearance cold, gaunt, like a skull's face.
Loathsome, triumphant, an exulting devil. Chilling descriptions.
And her loyalty to Rebecca, it's intense, unhealthy, really.
Bordering on obsession. She was Rebecca's maid since childhood, and she sees the new Mrs. de Winter as just an imposter, an insult.
You feel that hatred immediately, those dark and somber eyes.
Mhm.
It gives you, the reader, that same feeling of disquiet, that foreboding.
And she uses that. Her manipulation is just insidious.
Yeah.
So clever, so cruel.
How does she do it?
Well, she keeps Rebecca's rooms exactly as they were,
Ah.
like a shrine, a constant reminder.
Right, so the narrator can never escape her.
Never. And she constantly compares them. Always unfavorably, of course, making the narrator feel small, inadequate.
And the costume ball incident, that's brutal.
Oh, the height of it. Pressuring her to wear that specific dress, knowing Maxim will hate it, knowing it was Rebecca's signature look. It's pure psychological warfare.
Designed to break her.
Absolutely. To make her feel she's just a pale copy. Danvers even says things like, Rebecca is still mistress. It is you who are the ghost.
Ugh. And doesn't she try to push her further
Yeah.
towards?
Yes. There's that horrifying scene where she's almost calmly suggesting suicide. Why don't you jump now and have done with it? Just whispers it. It's pure evil.
So the book builds this tension, this dread, but it's all psychological. No actual ghosts.
None. It's the narrator's anxiety, her insecurity, Danvers' pressure. That's what keeps you on edge.
You really feel her discomfort. And it goes on for ages, doesn't it? Like the first 3/4 of the book is just this slow burn.
Exactly. Not much happens in terms of plot, but you're gripped by this obsession with Rebecca, this feeling that something must break.
Du Maurier totally tricks you. She makes you think the whole story is about the new wife versus the old wife's memory.
Living Mrs. de Winter versus dead Rebecca and Mrs. Danvers. That's the conflict you're invested in.
Will she overcome the shadow? Or will it crush her? That's the question you think you're waiting to answer.
It's a masterful setup. Because the real story hasn't even begun yet, and then boom, the whole thing just flips.
Right.
Rebecca's boat, the Je Reviens, is found accidentally.
With her body inside. Not the body they identified before.
Right, a misidentification earlier. Now they have her. And this discovery forces an official inquest into her death.
Which initially rules it a suicide?
Yes, but that verdict, the whole process,
Yeah.
it's the catalyst. It pushes Maxim over the edge, and he finally confesses.
And this is the moment that changes absolutely everything you thought you knew.
Completely pulls the rug out.
So what does he confess?
The truth, or his truth anyway, that his marriage to Rebecca was a total nightmare, a sham.
Not the perfect union everyone imagined.
Far from it. He calls her cruel, selfish, a psychopath, says she had affairs, multiple lovers, adulterer, nymphomaniac. Strong words.
His words, yeah. Reflecting his bitterness.
Absolutely. And then the bombshell.
Yeah.
He killed her.
He shot her.
Yes, in their beach cottage. Says she taunted him, said she was pregnant with another man's child and he'd have to raise it as his own, dared him to stop her. He snapped, shot her.
Wow. And then he covered it up.
Meticulously. Put her body in the boat, sailed it out, punched holes in it, sank it, made it look like an accident.
So the whole story just pivots. It's not Gothic romance anymore.
It's a crime drama, a
Yeah.
murder mystery almost, where you suddenly realize the hero might be the killer.
And what's really stunning is how the narrator reacts to this.
Yes, this is fascinating. All her anxiety, her insecurity, it just seems to melt away, almost instantly.
Why? Because he killed Rebecca.
Partly, maybe, but more. Because in confessing, he tells the narrator he never loved Rebecca, he despised her, and he loves her, the narrator.
So hearing that he loves her and hated Rebecca, that empowers her.
She undergoes this radical transformation. Suddenly she's confident, self-assured. It's jarring.
Which raises that huge question. Is this real confidence? Did she find herself?
Is her self-worth just shifting? Before, it was crushed by Rebecca's perfection.
Yeah.
Now, is it built on Rebecca being evil and Maxim loving her? Is it still all external?
Still dependent on him, just in a different, darker way.
It's deeply unsettling, and people debate this like crazy.
I bet. Like that Reddit comment you mentioned, finding it disgusting that it's presented almost romantically. Seeing Maxim as an abuser.
Exactly. That commenter saw him as manipulating this young girl, molding her, and her reaction to the murder. It's meant to horrify us, the readers.
To show how warped the relationship is, how brainwashed she might be.
Precisely. That her relief comes from him killing someone. It highlights the abuse, the codependency. He didn't win her with love, maybe, but with this shared dark secret.
It feels very modern, that reading, doesn't it? Thinking about grooming, power dynamics.
It resonates strongly today, and the story doesn't stop there. The twists keep coming.
Right, because Rebecca's lover, Jack Favell, turns up.
Her cousin and lover,
Yeah.
sleazy character. He tries to blackmail Maxim. Says Rebecca wouldn't have killed herself. He has a note.
Thinks he can get money out of Maxim.
Which leads to more digging. And they find out about Rebecca's secret visit to a doctor in London just before she died.
And the truth comes out?
The medical truth. Rebecca had cancer. Aggressive. She only had months to live.
Wow, so she was dying anyway.
And crucially, because of a malformation of the uterus, she could never have been pregnant.
So that final taunt to Maxim, carrying another man's child.
A complete fabrication. A deliberate, cruel lie designed to provoke him.
Okay, wait, so Maxim puts this together and thinks...
He concludes, Rebecca knew she was dying, hated the idea of a slow, painful death. So she engineered her own end.
By deliberately provoking him into killing her.
Exactly. A twisted kind of assisted suicide, orchestrated by her. She chose a quick, violent end, controlled by her manipulation, rather than letting the illness win.
That recontextualizes Maxim's actions again, doesn't it? It doesn't excuse the murder.
No, not at all, but it shifts it. Was it cold-blooded murder, or was he fundamentally manipulated into it by a dying, incredibly malicious woman?
It makes Rebecca seem even more powerful, even in death.
Her manipulative genius is almost unparalleled. Again, people argue about this endlessly. Does it excuse Maxim? Make him a victim too?
Or does it just show how utterly controlling Rebecca was?
It forces you, the listener, to really think critically. Question assumptions. There's no easy answer. Did Maxim deserve to get away with it? The book leaves it hanging.
It really does. And, you know, exploring these kinds of morally gray areas, these complex characters and twisty plots, that's exactly what we love doing here on The Deep Dive.
Absolutely. It reminds me a bit of our deep dive into, say, Gone Girl.
Yeah.
Another book that plays with your perceptions of victim and villain.
Or even The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo complex, female characters, dark secrets, unreliable perspectives.
And the puzzle box nature, like in the Da Vinci Code. Though maybe less code-breaking here, more psychological unraveling.
Definitely. So if you enjoy digging into stories like these, peeling back the layers, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Keep up with all our future deep dives.
Please do. We love having these conversations.
Okay, so Maxim seems to be in the clear. The coroner, Colonel Julian, he kind of suspects something's up.
Yeah, you get the feeling he knows more than he lets on, but there's no proof. The official verdict stands. Suicide.
So the De Winters think, right, ordeal over. Let's go back to Manderley, start again.
They're driving back, maybe feeling some relief, some hope.
And then they see it, this red in the sky, a glow on the horizon.
Wind-borne ashes. Manderley is on fire.
Just gone up in smoke. Now, the Hitchcock movie is very clear, isn't it? It shows Mrs. Danvers setting the fire.
Yes, the film gives her this dramatic, fiery end inside the house. Very cinematic.
But the book, it's more ambiguous again.
Much more. It could be Danvers. Or it could be Falvin, fulfilling his threat to get Max. Or maybe something else entirely.
And didn't Danvers actually leave Manderley before the fire in the book?
She did. She's seen packing her bags.
Yeah.
Which makes her direct involvement less certain. Maybe she arranged it. Maybe it was Falvin. The book leaves you wondering.
Another layer of mystery. So Manderley burns. What does that signify?
It really hammers home that theme. You can never go back. Manderley, the symbol of the past, of Rebecca's hold. It's destroyed.
So freedom for Maxim and the narrator.
In a way, they're liberated from that specific haunting. But the fire also leaves them homeless, rootless. The book opens with a narrator dreaming of Manderley, saying they can never return. They live this nomadic life in hotels.
Which brings up that question. Is it really a happy ending? Are they free or just, adrift? Still damaged?
Living a half-life, maybe. Haunted in a different way. The narrator seems content in the opening, but is it genuine peace? Or just resignation?
Or maybe, as some readings suggest, she's found a different kind of power now. With Maxim diminished, dependent.
That's a fascinating interpretation. A subtle power shift in their dynamic, born from the ashes. The ambiguity is key.
So let's talk genre again. Du Maurier called it a study in jealousy. Publishers called it romantic suspense. What do we call it?
It's tricky. It borrows from romance, from suspense, from mystery. But ultimately, it feels most like a Gothic novel, but a psychological one.
Right. It gets compared to Jane Eyre a lot.
Understandably. Orphan young woman, brooding older man with a secret wife past, grand imposing house. The parallels are there.
But the outcome is so different. Jane gets her man, somewhat redeemed. Our narrator gets, well, a murderer and a life in exile.
Exactly. Rebecca is much darker. It really is that psychological examination of insecurity, codependence, messed up power dynamics.
Yeah.
Not a comforting romance.
A deep dive into a toxic relationship, really.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And its power as a Gothic novel comes from making the haunting purely psychological. The past infects the present through memory, anxiety, atmosphere. No actual ghosts needed.
And its influence has been huge, hasn't it? Still read everywhere.
Immense. Never out of print since 1938. Sold millions. Still sells thousands every month, decades later.
Yeah.
BBC called it one of the 100 most inspiring novels.
Inspiring. Interesting word for such a dark book.
Maybe inspiring in its craft, its psychological depth. It certainly inspires discussion.
And it pops up everywhere in pop culture. You mentioned Stephen King.
Bag of Bones, yeah.
Yeah.
Mrs. Danvers is almost a spectral presence there. Jasper Fforde uses Danvers clones.
Even Taylor Swift.
Apparently her song Tolerated was directly inspired by the book's relationship dynamics.
And the adaptations films, TV, radio.
Countless. Orson Welles did a radio version that stuck closer to the book's dark ending.
Unlike Hitchcock, we talked about how he had to change the ending for the Hays Code.
Right. Couldn't have Maxim get away with murder on screen back then. So Rebecca's death becomes accidental. Danvers gets the fiery punishment. It changes the moral core, really.
Makes Maxim less culpable.
Significantly. Which is probably why the book's ending feels more complex, more disturbing.
And there were even plagiarism accusations.
Yes, adding another layer to its history. Claims it resembled a couple of earlier novels, one Brazilian, one American.
Were they substantiated?
They went to court, but were ultimately dismissed. Still, it adds to the discussion, the context around the book. It just shows Rebecca isn't simple.
No, definitely not. It's layered, complex, invites reading after reading. You keep finding new things.
Exactly. New nuances in the characters, the themes. It rewards that deep dive. #outro.
Well, this deep dive into Rebecca really does show that the biggest horrors aren't always ghosts and goblins, are they? Sometimes they're right inside our own heads, in our relationships.
Absolutely. The narrator's struggle for identity, Maxim's secrets, Danvers' twisted devotion. It's a masterclass in exploring jealousy, manipulation, how the past just refuses to stay buried.
It keeps asking those tough questions, doesn't it? About power, who's responsible, what love even means when it's tangled up like this.
Which is why it stays so compelling, I think. Why people still talk about it, argue about it. It refuses easy answers.
It really does. So what's the one thing that sticks with you after revisiting it all? Maybe that chilling atmosphere, the moral gray areas, the fact we still don't know her name.
For me, it might be the narrator's transformation after the confession, that sudden confidence built on such dark foundations. It's profoundly unsettling.
Yeah, it definitely leaves you thinking long after you finish. Thank you so much for joining us on the deep dive today.
Always a pleasure.
And if you enjoyed this discussion, found it insightful, please make sure you're subscribed. Hit that button so you don't miss our next deep dive into another fascinating story. We'll see you then.